Good morning, guys. This is the lesson for Tuesday, April 21st. I hope you guys had a good spring break and everybody got some rest and had a break from schoolwork. And just to kind of bring you up to speed on a few things about what we're going to be doing in the next couple of days, is probably toward the end of this week, you guys are going to take a test, an open book test on chapter 10. I'll give you some instructions on that a little later on. And then something else that we'll do next week probably is I want you to be thinking about a famous North Carolinian that you could just write just a one-page paper on. It could be Billy Graham, it could be Michael Jordan, it could be Etta James. There's some people that are listed in the back of your book that you could choose from. You could actually just even, if you had a grandpa that fought in the Vietnamese War and you wanted to talk about him and his impact on North Carolina, anything, but just somebody that we can credit to being a North Carolina born person, a native of North Carolina, and you're going to do a paper on that. So just be brainstorming about that some. Page 439, that's where a lot of the people are listed. Some of the sports figures: Michael Jordan, Dale Earnhardt, Marion Jones, Sugar Ray Leonard, Jim Catfish Hunter, Mia Hamm. You could go with a musician, Etta James, Roberta Flack, James Taylor. The list goes on, and then there are people that are in language arts and humanities. Or it can be somebody personalized. It can be somebody in your neighborhood. It can be a family friend, somebody that's had an impact on North Carolina. So just brainstorm about that. There will be no right or wrong. Just I want you to be thinking about that. And for now, just to pick up with where we left off before spring break, we are on page 390. We're going to cover a couple of pages today. We're still in the 60s, and Vietnam, we talked about that when we spoke last. More than 200,000 North Carolinians served in this conflict. About 4,000 were wounded, and just over 1,600 were killed. Those are really the last notes on Vietnam. A couple of things, a couple of groups of people that I want to talk about that you might have heard of. The Green Berets. The Green Berets was a special forces group that came out of Fort Bragg, and they were well-trained teams to conduct secret missions behind enemy lines in case of war in Europe, and they're very well known, and they were known for their distinctive green headwear. So out of Fort Bragg came the Green Berets, just a famous fighting group in the Army, and they were from Bragg and became very famous. If you ever saw any of the old Rambo movies, the old First Blood movies, your moms and dads probably know about those. John Rambo, who was Sylvester Stallone, he was a former Green Beret and was in Vietnam. Those are some good Vietnam movies, actually. The Army spent millions of dollars building and training a center at Fort Bragg, and they named it the John F. Kennedy Special Forces Center, and it is currently the Army's major center for Special Forces research and training. So North Carolina has a huge impact, or in North Carolina at Fort Bragg were just a very special group of people that are still to this day known for their specialties in war behind enemy lines. The next thing that I'd like to talk about for a second, and I know we skip around a little bit, these things kind of go from place to place, but they're all linked together. I'm sure some of you have heard of a musical event that took place in the 1960s called Woodstock. And in page 390, it talks a little bit about Woodstock, and it was sort of the hippie movement. If you look in the book, during the 1960s, many young people became deeply dissatisfied with contemporary American culture as well as politics. So what they were doing is they were trying to protest and express their views through music. And some of the bands that were very popular at the time that sang of peace, love, rebellion, the whole "make love, not war" became a popular slogan. You had the Beatles, you had the Grateful Dead, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Bob Dylan. And the power that music held became clear in 1969 when more than 400,000 young people made their way to Woodstock, New York for 3 days of performances and togetherness. And it was just a free-willing festival where people danced, lit candles, bought souvenirs. If you read on in the book, it was just a time where many smoked marijuana, psychedelic drugs. The event became a symbol for what was called the counterculture. And in North Carolina, a number of talented musicians looked to the past for inspiration, becoming part of a nationwide folk revival. So a lot of people that were dissatisfied with the way things were going in the country, they protested through their music. And most of you have probably heard of Woodstock. It will be something that might be interesting for you to look up and do a little research on. Sometimes I do miss being in class with you because I can tell you stories about different things. Believe it or not, I actually saw the Grateful Dead. They were still around when I was in college, and it was an eye-opening experience that was toward the tail end of their career. But I'm sure you could ask some of your parents about some of these bands and some of this time period. They would know some things about it too. Anyway, a couple of other groups of minority people or Americans that were starting to promote civil rights, and they were prompted to challenge their place or challenge for their place in society were the Mexican Americans. They organized what was called the Chicano movement, whose activists supported Chicano political candidates. There were the Asian Americans on the West Coast. It says that they protested the war in Vietnam and worked to improve conditions in Asian communities like San Francisco's Chinatown. The Native Americans, they organized their own activities into a movement called Red Power. So there were a lot of different groups of people that were starting to protest, and they were looking for their way. They were just trying to find their way in society. With the schools, it was time for the schools to become desegregated. It was time for equal rights, and people were tired of being suppressed, I guess would be the best way to put it, and they were just ready to have equal rights as everyone. Unfortunately, there were times that sometimes things became very volatile, and the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were a group of people that were very militant. They were known for their military-style organization, their sharp denunciation of government and authority, and their guns. If you look on page 392, you can see there's a section here on Black Power. The Black Panthers, they were very upset in 1968 when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. Across the region, sad and angry African Americans flooded the streets. Blacks and whites shot at each other in Greensboro, Wilmington, and other cities. So there's just a lot of unrest in society in general. And it is just a time, we're right here, right before the time that the schools are going to become, again, desegregated. And people are upset. So people are just trying to, they're trying to get their views out there, or they're trying to protest. They're ready for equal rights in the society that we live in. And the Black Panthers, I would like you to read that section on page 392. Some of you, I keep talking about the movie Forrest Gump, and if you remember, it takes you through the 50s and 60s and 70s, actually. And there was actually a scene in the movie where Forrest Gump goes in and actually disrupts a Black Panther party. If you saw the movie, you would know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I want you to know a little bit about that. I do want you to read on page 393 about the Wilmington 10. You can see those 10 people there. I want you to read about that. That was in your reading from last night's homework or tonight's homework. And it was about another shooting, another riot that took place in Wilmington. So we're right here. We're coming up to the time period that there's getting ready to be some change. In the next couple of days, we'll finish up the chapter talking about all of the white people that are, again, they're upset because they think that a lot of blacks are really demanding privileges that they had not earned. And so this is a tough time of U.S. history, and again, especially in the South. But we are close to all of this really coming to an end, and really, we're going to pull out of Vietnam soon. We will talk about in the next couple of days one last thing, the Watergate scandal. And just some of the advancements that start to take place in the 1960s. So anyway, these are just some things that I want to make sure that you are aware of. Again, we'll be taking an open notes test on Chapter 10, or the second part of Chapter 10 anyway, at the end of this week. I hope everybody's doing good. Anytime you get a chance, email me. I like to hear from you guys and see what you're up to and what you're doing. And again, as always, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'll respond promptly. Have a good day. Bye.